Okay. Let me see. Now I need to get back to where we were. Okay, so good morning. My name is Brenda Strong. I am the testing coordinator for the certification exams that you need to take in order to become a certified teacher. If you have not already done so, please scan the QR code. This is just confirmation that you have received a copy of the handbook. If you've already done it, please don't do it again. I've had several people that have done it more than once, and that kind of throws me off when I go in to pull those records down.
Everybody go ahead and pull your phone out and scan it if you need to. I'm sorry, I didn't.
It's okay, it's okay. Yeah, take care of it now if you haven't already done it. There's all of the links, and if you save this electronically, which you are urged to do, all the links in here are active links except for one. There's one that's not active, but it's listed in here more than one time. So how do I make this so that it takes up the whole page? Does anybody know? This is
Present.
Thank you.
Learn something new every day.
It's different. I went through
I
it on
didn't
my
know that
computer,
either.
but it's different on this computer.
Didn't know that either.
So all the links are active here. This is where you would go to the main page for educator preparation services, which we'll go to some of these pages eventually. Okay, so table of contents. I tried to lay this out so that it makes a lot of sense. With the main ideas are folded black, and then underneath them are the areas that are included in those main ideas. I'm recording this. I'm hoping that this is, I'm not sure what's going on, but I hope this is working. I'm recording this. I'll post it to YouTube, and then once I have it posted to YouTube, I'll send the link out to everybody so that if you want to watch it. It is a lot of material. However, everything I'm covering is literally in the handbook. So should you have any questions after the fact, you should be able to find everything in here. If not, you can give me a call. Here's all the contact information for educator preparation services, and we're located in Math 101 across the street. That's where you turned in your application to the teacher education program. You probably came in and gave that to Miss Music. I'm just the next door down from her. You may already be familiar with Miss Lanier if you did field placements back in block 1, so you're familiar with her. But there's all of our contact information, as well as it tells you our different roles and functions and what we work with. So if you keep this on hand, you'll know exactly who you need to contact if you have questions. So this particular handbook covers 2 different processes. The one is gaining initial approval for your exams, and in this course, or during block 2, you are going to receive initial testing approval for the PPR, your content area, and the STR if that applies. So do we have middle school people in here? Okay, do we have any math science combination, math science? Your math science, okay. That does not have STR. Our math does not have STR. Do we have any science people, 4th grade science? Okay, the STR does not apply to that either. But there's also a chart in the handbook there that tells you exactly what exams you have to have. And then the second part of this is registering for the actual Texas exams, which is what I'm going to be focusing on, because my function as a testing coordinator is to get you through the testing process. Your academic department, curriculum and instruction, is actually going to be working with you to make sure you're prepared to take your exams. They will be giving you testing approval. I do absolutely no testing approval at all. I just do what your department tells me. They say, this student is ready to test this exam, then I go in and I enter those approvals. But until I get that confirmation from the department or somebody in the department who's authorized to release those, I cannot give any authority as far as giving testing approval. In order for this handbook to be useful to you, you have to read it. You actually have to pay attention to it. If at any time you have questions about the testing process, then I'm your person. But if you have questions about approvals or what's required to get testing approval, then that is through your department.
Can I interrupt for
Yeah,
your thought? This statement right here that says, do not accept the word of any other individual. That means me too. Okay, I familiarize myself with it, but Mrs. Strong is the one. I could very easily accidentally give you wrong information. So don't talk to your peers, don't talk to your professors, go to Mrs. Strong.
If you have any confusion, and this happens quite frequently, things will get twisted, somebody will understand something a different way. And every single semester, there's usually a couple of wild rumors that'll start out there concerning testing. Come straight to the source, people will get really worked up, and they'll come to me with the last thing in tears saying, well, I heard this, or I was told this. Number one, if it's not in the handbook, then it's probably not true at all. But don't get worked up over anything that you may have misunderstood or you need clarification, come straight to me. And like Dr. Miller-Levy says, even our faculty does make mistakes, we all make mistakes. But we can clear that up rather quickly just by a phone call or stopping by the office and asking me about it. If at any time you all have any questions throughout this, just shoot your hand up, we'll address them immediately. We don't need to wait till the very end, because I don't want people to forget maybe what might be on your mind. Let's get it cleared up right from the very beginning. So before you begin either process, now, the email for this meeting today said to make sure you had your TEA login information. This is extremely important. You need to go in and check your account for accuracy. You need to make sure you have your legal first and last name in there. They're not so much concerned about your middle name or your middle initial, although if you want to include that, that's fine. You need to check your birth date, your social security number, and if you did not complete your gender and ethnicity, then you need to make sure that that is in there. When it comes time to test, you're going to be setting up a testing account through Pearson, that's the testing vendor. Whatever information you have in TEA, that's the same information that you need to put into your Pearson account. If there's any discrepancies, it's going to cause problems. Also, if you did make an error when you set up your account, some of these things you can just automatically go in and fix, but some of these things are also going to make you submit documentation to TEA and they'll fix it on their end. But if you need to change anything, now is the time to check that. Everybody needs to check that. It will cause problems later on, and we just want to head those problems off at the very beginning. When you supply your email account in TEA, we're running into issues in that people are using their Tarleton email address. And even though you get to take that with you when you leave Charlton, I don't think it's indefinitely. I think that there's a period of time you get to use that email and then eventually it'll shut off. So you want to make sure that you have something in there that is actually going to remain current. So I would suggest everybody check your email, put something in there that you're going to use. TEA is not going to send you any spam at all. They're only going to send you very important information that's related to either testing or teacher certification further on down the line. And then your Tarleton email account is an official means of communication for us here at Tarleton. So anything that comes out of the EPS, Educator Preparation Services office, will either have, like if it comes from me, something will say certification testing, or it might say admissions or certification. If it's coming from Miss Music, or if it's coming from Miss Lanier, it might say field experiences or clinical teaching or year-long residency, something to that effect. It's important that you get in the habit of checking your email. I know you get flooded. You get things every single day from the campus, and it's probably very tempting just to go in and do mass deletes on that, but you're going to want to make sure you're monitoring that, because we send out a lot of important information throughout the time of your time in the program. So just get in the habit of checking that. And then you're going to know where the web pages for all certification testing information are found. What exams do I need to take? This is what I would suggest everybody highlight. Find your certification area. They're all listed in the left-hand column. And in the right-hand column, it shows the exams that are related to that certification. So that's what you're gonna be required to take. So I would suggest highlighting those. We do run into problems sometimes when it gets to registration. Because unfortunately Pearson does have a different kind of test in there that's listed as Texas PAC or PAC Texas. And people get confused, but those numbers will not match up with these numbers, and you want to make sure when you're registering for exams that whatever you're registering for, these numbers match what you're paying to take. This is the first semester that your academic department is doing this. In the past, we've had a different initial test approval process. My understanding is you're going to be taking what's called representative forms. That's going to be one of the factors that's going to be used to determine your test readiness. But whatever the department tells you, you need to complete to gain test approval, it's completely and totally up to them. And right now, I'm not sure what that is. But like I said, you'll be taking the PPR, preparing for the PPR, your content area, and STR if it applies to your certification area while you're in block 2. And then if you're a person with the ESL supplemental, or if you're SPED, do we have any SPED people in here? Okay, then you will be completing that at the direction of the corresponding course. Okay, there is a request to test form. Although that's not due until Friday, November 17th. I am going to encourage you to get this filled out after class today and get this sent to me. That way, it's one more thing that's already off your plate and you don't have to worry about it later on. I have to have this before I can begin entering any test approvals for you. My understanding is you're not gonna get test approval until sometime after the 17th. So I have to have this prior to the 17th. Don't put it off, do it right away. We're gonna go through this. When it comes time to submit this, here are the submission instructions. So number 1, fill out, and you're gonna type, not handwrite, on the request test form, and these are active links. It's not active here right now, but if you have this electronically, all these links are active. It'll take you to the form online. You're going to fill this out and then save it to your device and name it requested test form for your legal first and last name. After you've saved it, open it back up to make sure that all of the boxes and fields are actually filled, because depending on how your device is set up, some people's forms will not save that information. It'll just be blank. And I do get blank forms quite frequently. But once you've saved it, open it up and check it. If it's blank, if you don't have the correct format on your device, then my suggestion would be to go ahead and print it off and then scan it and then attach it that way. Then what you're going to do is save it with your first and last name, request a test form, and you're going to email that to me. As I'm just strong@charleston.edu. Make sure in the subject line you put requested test document with your legal first and last name in the subject line. Or you can handle it for this right across the street. Math 101 and 101D. If you want confirmation that once you've sent this, that I've received it, this is something you have to set up on your end. You can do a read receipt, which means that when it comes to me, when I read it, then I will push the button that says, yes, I received it. Or you can do a delivery receipt, or you can do both. But that is something you have to set up on your end. I've had problems with people sending me their item and then saying, okay, I want a read receipt. Well, you do that on your end. And if you don't know how to do it, you should be able just to go into the help platform in your email and put in read receipt. And it should give you the instructions on how to do it if you don't already know how to do that. And depending on what you're using, it may or may not be different. If I do get emails asking me if I received it, I do not respond to them. I'm sorry, I just don't have the time to respond. So if you want to know definitely, then do the read receipt and you'll know that I did indeed get it. Any questions so far? Okay, this is the test approval form. If you save the electronic version of the handbook, you can see that there's this watermark in here, the sample form. Because if you were to use this form, which is fillable, but if you were to use this form and save it, you would be sending me the entire handbook. And I don't want the entire handbook. So you're going to use the link to get to this form. We're going to go through just some of the highlights on this that seem to be issues. In part A, when somebody says that they want your legal name, it means they want your, at the very minimum, your first and last name. Now, if you go by a middle initial, that's great. If you also use your middle name, that's fine too. But at the very minimum, legal name means first and last. You'd be surprised how many people just provide their last name to me on forms that say legal name. So just keep that in mind. It's first and last name. You're going to include both your Tarleton ID number as well as your TEA ID number. Your TEA ID number is never going to be longer than 7 digits, and everybody's number, unless you were an aide and got aide certification some time ago, they'll start with a 2. Everybody's number probably started with a 2 if you set it up in block 1. Never any longer than 7 digits. You'll just select your campus location. Include the address where I'm most able to contact you, whether that's a permanent home address or whether you're at an address that you're going to be keeping for the remainder of your time here at Tarleton. I am going to, if I have to contact you, first I'm going to try contacting you by phone. If that doesn't work, then I'll try email, and if that doesn't work, I'll have Dr. Miller-Levy chase you down, and if that fails, then I'll be sending something, but I need to have whatever your current information is. For phone, same thing. It's extremely frustrating for our office when we need to contact somebody for something that's very important and we can't get a hold of you. I know a lot of people don't have voicemail set up or their mailbox is full. If that is the case, then you need to make sure that you're at least returning calls. I get that quite often. Somebody say, I missed a call from here. If that's the case, then you say, I'm so-and-so and I missed a call from this number. Otherwise, if I just hear a voice say, I missed a call from this number, I might not know or might not recognize who it is that I'm talking to. Same thing with your email. Please list only emails that you actually use. We are only going to contact you if we absolutely have to. Then make sure you're checking all the boxes that apply under the gender, ethnicity, and then your race. I don't know why a lot of these boxes go unchecked. As far as the options that are available under these categories, right now, these are the only categories that the state is using for reporting purposes. So those are the only options that I'm able to provide to you. Our program accreditation is based off of these items. That's why I need to make sure that I have accurate information. And you should be selecting for these the same thing that you put in your TEA account number. So, you know, if you vacillate back and forth on what your race is, then just make sure whatever you have set up your TE account, that's what you're providing to me, because we need to have consistency with that. Then under program verification, everybody should be checking the traditional teacher education block. And then you're going to find your area underneath this. Do we have any pre-K through 3 in here? Okay, 2 people. Okay, I need to keep that in mind when we start talking about testing windows. So if you're middle school, you're just gonna check this box. Whatever applies to you, we don't have any secondary people or we don't have any all level people in here, so you're gonna fall within the first 4 options. That's all you're gonna do for program verification. Academic status. when you applied to your academic program, I'm assuming that the majority of you either applied in the spring or the summer of 2023. So you're gonna check whichever box applies. Now, if it was something different, if you applied back in the fall and took a gap semester between block 1 and block 2 because of coursework or something, and then put whatever the year was. And then expected program completion, if you're in block 2 now, then you'll have block 3 in the spring. So probably for the majority of you, you're expecting to complete in the fall of 24. So you would click that fall, unless you know it's gonna be something different. If you know you're gonna take a gap semester in there, if you have coursework or something else. And then check one of the below and indicate semester and years. Your interdisciplinary studies or your elementary education. So you're going to be doing a year-long residency, and that will start in the spring. So you would click both the spring and the fall, and then I would just put on for the years 23-24. Okay, any questions about this first page at all? Okay, let's keep moving. On the second page, you are going to be selecting every exam you need to take. So if you need to refer back to the earlier chart that lays out, but everybody should be checking the PPR. Everybody has to take that. Then you'll find whatever your content area is and select that. I do want to call out a difference between 4 through 8 levels. Do we have any 4 through 8 core subjects in here? Okay, so our 4 through 8 people are all a content area, correct? Like math or, okay, keep that in mind too. There is some confusion because core subjects 4 through 8 has 4 subjects areas in it, but when preparing for those exams, you need to make sure you're not following that. You need to make sure that you're following the actual exam numbers that correspond with your content exam. And then if you're going to be ESL supplemental, you will click that box as well. And if the science of teaching reading applies, you're going to be clicking that as well. Our early childhood people, you can see down below, it's in the next box. This first box up here, these are the exams that are offered continuously. All exams are offered by computer. There's nothing paper-based when you go into the testing centers to take these. These exams are offered continuously, meaning there's no specific windows. Now you can see that some of them do have specific score posting dates. If it's got the red asterisk after it, like the science of teaching reading, the ELA R 4 through 8. That doesn't mean that every testing center offers every exam every day.
How long do you have to wait between exams to take it again? Is it 45 days? 30 days.
Yeah, so 30 days. So when you go into schedule exams, because you're going to have to meet test by dates, and then as the program continues, you're going to have to meet pass by dates. So when you go in and register for these exams, it's very important that you know if I test on such and such a date, when is my score report going to be available? Now, for our people that are the pre-K through 3rd grade down here, this exam has a very specific testing window. You are going to have to meet a test by date, I believe it's January 15th. You're going to have to pay very close attention to when that exam is being offered in order to meet that test by date. So I'm going to be showing you where to take a look to find that. And then again, it has a very specific score report date as well. So that's all you're going to be checking. Every exam that you need to take, you're going to click on this particular page. The next page are the Tarleton policies that are related to the exams. We're not going to go through this. You need to go through this before you sign it, because I want to draw your attention to the bottom of this page. I have received, read, and understand the testing policies for Tarleton State University. By signing below, I agree to adhere to the above stated policies and understand that Failure to do so may result in the issuance of a flag and or an eligibility to complete the program for which I'm enrolled. And specifically, I want to look at item number 3. Candidates may take only one exam per test administration day. Okay, why would you think that that would be the case? Why we only want you to take one a day? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
You
Yeah.
don't want burnout.
Exactly. We're not saying that there's individuals who aren't capable of it, but I can tell you from experience, the people that have tried this, I have yet to see anybody be successful on taking 2 exams in one day and be successful on both of them. So this has been in place for some time. This particular policy has been in place for some time. Occasionally, somebody will slip through the cracks. If that happens, then a flag is issued for violation of one of the policies. But don't put yourself through that. We want our people to be successful on all first attempts. And in order to help ensure that, then we want to limit you to 1 exam per day. Most of these exams, you have a maximum of 5 hours to take them. Chances are they're not gonna take you 5 hours, but it's a mental load to go in and take these exams. So just keep that in mind. This isn't meant to be punitive. This is actually meant to protect you. And then don't choose any days that conflict with any schedules. So just make sure before you put your name on this document that you have read it and you fully understand it, because in the past, people who have violated some of the policies will come back and say, well, I didn't know. And this usually goes to the dean, and the first thing the dean is gonna do is say, Brenda, pull their test request form. Did they sign this form? And if your signature's on it, then the expectation is that you read it and you understand it. And then the last page is just the perfect consent for release. And this is for testing information. This tells you how it's used and who has access to this. And then down below, I know this is a repeat down below here of TEA ID number, phone number, and email address, but the state requires us to have this form on file. And this is the information that they require us to have. So yes, it's a repeat. And I can tell you, when filling out this form, something that happens quite frequently is when people are filling out part A on the first part, they don't fill in their TEA number right away because they say, well, I have to go back and look it up. And then they get all the way through the form and they might put it on the last page, but they don't put it on the first page. They don't go back. So that's one reason why I wanted you to have your login information all available. And remember, you were encouraged to record your number in a spot where you can easily recall it so that you won't run into the issues of, I don't know what my number is. Any questions at all about the form? All righty, we're gonna keep going. I've included 242 registration information here. I'm not gonna go through this because I'm not sure what your department is going to be requiring as far as 242 but my understanding is, depending on what results are on the representative forms that you may be taking, that they may have you go into 242. Did you use this in block 1 last semester? Okay, so you're familiar with this, okay. But here's just the sheet so that you know. And then once again, item number 4, if for some reason you have to ask to have them start this all over again, if you test out 3 times and don't get whatever the requirements are, then this is how you contact 242 to have them. We say reset, but they say delete, because what happens is they will actually delete the study plan and you have to start all over from the beginning, not start all over with the practice exams. You have to go from the very beginning with a study plan, flashcards and quizzes before it lets you go back in. So therefore, I don't know if you were cautioned in block 1 about making sure before you take those practice exams, if they're looking for you to meet requirements, that you're not wasting any attempts when you're working in there. This particular portion talks about the flagging procedure. Flags are issued by your academic department, including all your faculty members can issue a flag. EPS can issue a flag. Actually, anybody that's related to the teacher education program can issue a flag. This isn't meant to be, I don't know what the correct word is, scary or intimidating. This is meant to identify problems before they get to a point that there's no return from them. So if you're issued a flag out of EPS, chances are it's because you missed a deadline. Or like in the case of, if you violated one of the testing policies. You can be issued flags while you're out in the field, depending on what your actions were. Just keep in mind that we're trying to prevent things from getting out of hand. Typically, the first flag is pretty much just a warning, but depending on the severity of whatever whatever the situation is, you can be dismissed from the program at any of those levels, but it's got to be something that's pretty severe. So if you get a flag, say like if you were to miss a test by date or something like that, unless you've already got flags under your belt, then I say don't get worked up about it. This is just a warning that, hey, you got to stay on top of things. And I heard Dr. Miller leaving when I came in the room about having meltdowns and getting overwhelmed. And yes, you are going to get overwhelmed this semester. I get overwhelmed every semester. But it's all part of how to deal with that, because when you get out into your profession as a teacher, you're going to be overwhelmed at times out there too. So it's a matter of how you're going to learn how to deal with it. So that's how flagging works. And then if you're a test taker with a documented disability and you need special accommodation, you need to start working on this right now. You need to have all of your documents ready to go so that when you get testing approval, you schedule your exam, you don't pay for it yet, but that's when you submit your documentation to Pearson, and that can take 2 to 3 weeks to get that in place. So you're still gonna have to meet those initial test by dates for the PPR content and STR. You want to have everything in place and ready to go. Now, something that I have seen quite a bit of in the past, people think, well, I'm not gonna apply for accommodations. You may have them through Charlton, but that does not necessarily mean whatever documentation you provided to Charlton is gonna be what Pearson accepts. They're very stringent about what they will accept, how old it can be. So you need to go in and familiarize yourself if you need special accommodations. But my suggestion would be, don't wait until you've already tested without accommodations and then figure out, oh, I guess I do need accommodations after all, because then you're gonna have retest by dates that you have to meet. So if this applies to you, make sure that you're on top of this and you have this all lined up, so you know what the expectations are, so there's no surprises when you get a little bit further on down the line. Also keep in mind that once you do get accommodations awarded, not every testing facility has been approved to offer all accommodations. So there is the possibility that you may need to travel to a site that does offer those accommodations and has been approved for those accommodations. Okay, registering once approvals have been entered. This is indicating that those approvals will be entered in the registration system within 5 to 7 working days of departmental notification. I can almost guarantee you that it will never take that long unless for some reason I have to be out of the office. But typically, when I get an email from a faculty member or from a program director who says, this student is approved to take this exam, I drop whatever I'm doing and I go into the system and I enter those approvals. So once you know in your particular course that you've been approved for an exam, at that point, I would start going into my Pearson account to see if that exam is listed so that you can get registered for it. Now, there are cases, like if I have to be out of the office a day or two, that it might take some time in there, but that's typically not how I operate. Even lots of times if I am not in the office, I'm still checking my email and taking care of test approvals, but you cannot depend on that. you've got to, in your mind, think there could be some lead time in there that's necessary. You must test and retest by the dates established in the year-long residency testing guide table, that's included. And then if you fail to meet those, then yes, flags are issued. So it's really important that once you get testing approval, you get your exams registered. That is to ensure that you, number one, get the optimal testing location and date that you want in order to test. Now, Tarleton is a testing facility, but as I mentioned earlier, not every testing center offers every exam every single day, even if it's a continuously offered exam. I'm not sure about the testing facility now here at Tarleton, but at one point I know they were only offering the PPR 2 days a week. So the sooner you register, the better chances are that you'll get the date and the time that you want. Also, make sure that you check the score posting dates when you register. That comes up in the Pearson account. You must read all of the information that that Pearson provides when you register. You're going to have to provide identification documents to the testing center, and not all testing centers accept the same number or the same items for identification. So every exam that you take, especially if you're taking them at different locations, make sure you know what their requirements are. I know some testing facilities require 2 forms of ID. It's usually a picture ID. They will list what are acceptable forms. Something to keep in mind is they have to be original documents. You cannot have photocopies or phone pictures of any of your documents. They have to be actually original and in your hand. Typically, Social Security card is not a form of ID. It's not supposed to be used in that manner. And number one, it doesn't have your photo on it. And most of the ID, they're going to require photos. But they're going to tell you what they will and won't accept. Also make sure that your ID, your first and last name matches whatever you set up in both your TEA and your Pearson account. If there's any discrepancy between first and last name, by law, they have to turn you away. So that's why it's important that you're consistent in all of the information that you're providing to these different entities. Also, your documentation cannot be expired. So make sure you're checking that, particularly like your driver's license, and for some reason, you know, even if it expired the day before your testing, by law, they have to turn you away. You don't lose the attempt. They don't count that as an attempt, but you lose your money. And depending on the exam, most of them are 120, some of them are 140. That's just not pocket change that would be going down the drain. So make sure you're paying attention to that. Our 4th grade math people, I'm not sure when you're going to register, you're going to have to check to see if they allow you to bring in a calculator, and if they do, they'll tell you what models you can bring in. Otherwise, they may provide an online calculator, but if that's the case, you'll want to make sure you run through the tutorial to make sure you know how to use that the day before you go into test. And once again, the safest rule of thumb is just to make sure you're reading everything when you register, so you know what the expectations are. All right, here's that testing guide table. So you're going to be spring residency start, so you'll be in that blue column. The requirement is listed in the left-hand column there. So the due date for initial test approvals for PPR, content area, and STR, I do not know what those due dates are. Your course instructors will be telling you that. I think Dr. Miller, you're doing PPR. And then I don't know who's doing your content. I don't know where that's coming out of, but you have reading 3843 with Dr. Gentry, is that correct? He will be doing the STR with you. Okay, so you'll be getting approval, but there should be a cutoff date at some point that says you have to have all those requirements completed. Because once again, the test by date for those exams, you can see the next row down, test by date. Oh, you have to test by no later than January 1st. I'm sorry, I said 15th earlier, but it's January 1st. So if you're not getting testing approval until midpoint to end of November. And for our EC, our pre-K through 3 people, you're gonna wanna pay close attention to this. Because of those limited window dates for that particular exam, to make sure that you have tested by the January 1st. That's 3 exams that you need to schedule and take by that January 1st deadline. And then if for some reason we need a retest on any of those, then you have to retest by no later than April 15th before TR1. Or you start in the fall. Oh, I'm sorry. Something's wrong here, TR1. Okay, yeah, that makes sense, so you'd have to retest by April 15th. And then if you needed another retest by June 1st, but pay close attention to this red. If you have to retest, you need to be contacting your academic department right away, because I think they are implementing workshops or remediation sessions that you have to attend to get testing approval for those exams. And then you can see the next one is passing scores for those 3 exams. You would have to have passing scores by August 1st before the start of TR2. And then the next one is for ESL and special ed if applicable. And then the same process for those. Immediately after getting a score posting, if you see that a retest is required, then I would be contacting my faculty mentor. Now, does everybody know who their assigned faculty mentor is? You don't know? Oh, okay. That's something you should be able to get from the administrative assistant of the CNI. I don't have that information. I don't know who you've been assigned to, but everybody should have an assigned faculty mentor. Correct, Dr. Miller?
Yes, and I can give you your mentor, if they haven't emailed you, I haven't emailed mine yet, so. We usually do it about the 2nd week of school.
Do we get new ones?
No, it's the same one, you get them in block 1 and you keep them until you graduate, unless they leave.
So, okay.
Yeah, if Kate was your mentor, you will be getting another one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. As I stated, well, I don't know, maybe I haven't already stated this. I do not send out separate notification when test approvals get entered. You're gonna have 3 separate test approvals. And then multiply that by everybody that's in block 2. I cannot be sending out emails every time I enter an approval. So it's just your responsibility to go into your Pearson account to just monitor for now, if your instructor, if Dr. Miller Levy has told you, okay, you're approved for PPR. And a week later, that PPR approval is not in the Pearson system, then call me or get with Dr. Miller Levy to say, hey, did you pass it on to Brenda? And she says, oh yeah, I passed it on to Brenda, then come after me and say, what's going on here? Don't just wait, because you've got that time constraint of having to test by January 1st. But I do not send out notifications, I just cannot stay on top of that. And then if you fail to meet those test by and retest by dates, the flags are issued. You're responsible for contacting your academic department concerning the mandatory remediation sessions. Passing of exams does not certify you as a teacher. So it's quite possible when you go into the final semester in the TR2 semester that you would have all of your exams passed. But passing exams does not certify you. From a TEA standpoint, Texas Education Agency, that's the governing body for teacher educators. In order to be recommended for certification, yes, you have to have all of your exams passed. You have to have a successful clinical experience, which would include your year-long residency. All your coursework must be completed. You must have graduated, and finally, your degree has to post in the Tarleton system. Once all that has occurred, then you can be recommended. So probably a month before the end, or maybe a little bit earlier than that, Miss Music, who is our certification officer, will send out an email to you And it'll say, okay, you can go ahead and apply for certification if you have all of your exams passed, and we're going under the assumption that you're gonna graduate, your degree is gonna post, we're going under that assumption. You can go ahead and apply, and then as soon as your degree posts, then she can hit that recommendation button. Once she does that, then the state almost immediately, I mean, within an hour or two, they will issue you your teacher certificate. But until all that happens, you're not a certified teacher. There's a misconception a lot of times, oh, I've got my exams all passed, I'm certified now, but that can't happen until all those things have fallen into place. But, let's see. Let's talk about retakes for core subjects. EC through 6 core subjects, people. Probably the majority of you, okay? That exam has 5 subsets. So we've got the ELAR, math, social studies, science, fine arts, health, and PE. In order to pass that exam, you have to pass all 5 subjects. Okay, if say you take the exam and you pass 3 of them and have to retake 2, you have to register to retake the entire exam. So you're paying $120 to retake the exam. You do not retake the subjects you've already passed. You would scroll through those and just test the 2 that you have remaining. The only time the system is gonna allow you to register for one single subject is if that's all you have left to take. So if all you had left to take, say, was the math, then the system's gonna allow you to register for that. That's gonna cost $65 instead of $120 for the entire exam. So you might wanna highlight this in your handbook, so for the core subjects retake. Cause that confuses a lot of people. They'll know that they've got 2 sections to take and they'll go into register, but the only thing that's listed is the entire exam and they get confused. So keep that in mind for core subjects. And then finally on this page, if for any reason a candidate is removed from, typo, from a year-long residency and is required to finish the program by means of a traditional clinical teaching semester, then you must have all exams passed in order to start that semester. If you go back up to the year-long residency, it is possible to go into TR1 without having the PP or without having the ESL passed. You would have to have it attempted. But if you needed a retake, you're still allowed to start the TR1. You still have to meet retest by dates while you're in teacher residency too. But if for some reason you're removed from year-long residency, and there's a variety of reasons why that could possibly happen, then in order to be in that final semester, you have to have all of your exams passed. Any questions? Okay, how to register for Texas exams. I'm just gonna hit this repeatedly because it is so important to make sure you go into TEA. Here's the active link to check your TEA account, making sure everything is in there, including your gender and ethnicity. I think I sent out emails to people after accounts were established in block 1. I think after you made application, because that's when I go through and check everybody's accounts, and I sent out emails, but still there's people who don't pay attention. So if I go in to enter a test approval and I see that gender and ethnicity is not in there, then I will not be entering those test approvals until that has been taken care of. So just make sure it's complete and that it's accurate. Once again, it's advisable you do not use your Tarleton email in your profile. And then setting up your Pearson account, here's the active link that would take you to that. We'll go in and we'll take a look at this. We'll take a look at this site. But you want to make sure you're putting in all the same information there that you have in your TEA account so that it's accurate, that this walks you through the registration steps. This is pretty self-explanatory. I've never had anybody call me and say, I'm having problems registering. So I don't expect that you'll have problems. We're not going to go through this, but this is a copy of the remediation plan if you need retests. So depending on if it's a first request to retest, then this is what you would do. If this is the second request to retest, then third or fourth request to retest. And typically what I do is I get score reports 2 times a week. And when I go through and record the scores, I wait until the next day because I don't want to be the bearer of news, bad news. I typically will get your results before you get them. You'll get them the same day I do, but they say that you'll have them by 10 o'clock at night. I usually have them before 10 o'clock in the morning, but I don't want to tell you, hey, you weren't successful. You need to handle that in the way that's best, that you best handle it. But as soon as you find out you need a retest, get started on that right away. And like I said, you should be contacting your mentor, faculty mentor, because that's who you're going to be going through with all this set up. Now, I send out an email the following day and it'll link you to this information that's on the testing website. So it'll be the same information, but don't rely on that. If for some reason I'm out of the office or whatever, you have this information. So you're able to access, hey, this is what I need to do. I'll get emails, overnight, and people will email and say, okay, I failed the exam, what do I need to do? You have the information. So I just send out that information the next day or whenever I'm in the office next. If the test course posted on Friday, I usually don't send that out till Monday. Don't wait on me, get started on it right away. And then test preparation resources, once again, keep in mind that my function is to get you through this process and help you navigate the process. It's actually your academic department that's preparing you to take these exams. So don't contact me and say, what do I need to do to get approval? I'm going to tell you, I don't want to give you bad information or misinformation. So go through your faculty mentor and make sure you get what the department is actually requiring. Now, 240 tutoring may be used, and that's what's been used in the past, and it's still a very helpful tool. It's still a very helpful tool, which I think some people may be required to continue with that. I'm not sure, like I said, how the department has it set up. But people will contact me and say, well, what else can I use? Here's a list of materials that I am aware of. I've heard other programs speak of these. Some other programs across the state are using these, but I know absolutely nothing about them. Some of them are free and some of them are paid. So this is just what I can provide for you. And then on the electronic version of these, all of these are active links. There's a lot here for our course subject people. So if you're struggling with the science part of it, you might want to take a look at these science reviews. They're usually pretty short. A lot of these are YouTubes and they're between maybe 5 and 6 minutes long, but it's worth your time just to go in and see. You might be able to glean some very useful information just off whatever's provided here. Once again, I'm not endorsing anything because I'm not familiar with it, but this whole page was provided by another program, so apparently they found it useful. Okay, I think I'm going to go back to this and we're going to start looking at some links. I think that's going to be helpful. So let's go to, if you want to see the flag, this will take you to Charlton's page. It's under flag form. This is what the current flag looks like. It's 2 pages. If you missed a test by date, I'm going to be clicking this and I'm going to put miss the test by date and retest by date or whatever. And then I'll have a directive in here. There's a space for student response. So if you want to say something back, you can say something back. So this is what the flag looks like. Oh, great. Back to the first page of
Always.
Wish this was set up the same way my computer was set up. What else can we look at here? Test takers with disabilities. We're going to go into this because this will also take us to Pearson's. It says Texas Certification Examination Program, But this is actually the testing site, this is where you would go in to register. But if you need these accommodations, then here you go. Don't wait on this if you need this. This is everything you need to know, but. Let's go in here, like if you were to register. Anything in here that you want is, you're always gonna select the tab that says Texas. Before you register, you use the guides, okay, register now. Oh, great.
Yeah, doing maintenance, of course.
Okay, but when you get to this page, it's going to give you the option here of either logging in. Or underneath it, it says don't have an account, create one here. This is where you're gonna create your account, okay? Under the register tab. So at the bottom of this page. Yes,
This is the Pearson account?
this is the Pearson. This is where you're gonna actually register to take the exams. And then once you're in here. The list is all gonna pop up. You wanna make sure that you're selecting the name of your exam and the number that corresponds with that list that has, you know, all of the exams. You do not want the PAC exams. PAC stands for pre-admission content tests. And some of the traditional programs, as well as the alternate programs, require people to have, it's just a content only exam. They have that pass to be admitted into their program. We don't require that. It doesn't count towards certification. I had 2 people in the spring who took the PACT exam, even though I repeatedly said, do not take a PACT exam, which they passed it, but it doesn't count for anything. So let's see if I go under exams here. Let's click on Texas. Let's take a look at the PPR. These are alphabetically listed, and you want to make sure you get the 160 exam. You want the PPR EC through 12. You do not want trade and industrial education. But this is going to have all of the information about all of the exams. Okay, now this is telling you that this exam is $116. What it doesn't tell you is that there's a $3.40 state use fee tax on this. So I just round everything up, $120. Like I said, the STR is 140. I think the 4 through 8 ELAR is 140. They're changing all of these exams over from straight multiple choice questions. They're putting in constructed responses in some of these exams. So you will be doing constructed response in STR. If we have 4 through 8 ELAR, there will be constructed response in there. But this will walk you through it. Okay. Score reporting. Scores are available after 10 p.m. Central Time on the score report date. So this is going to tell you if you test during these specific dates, when your score report is going to test. So, or when it's going to post. So if you have to meet that August 1st score posting deadline to be able to go into TR2, remember to go into TR2, you've got to have your PPR, your content, and your STR passed. This is the, remember, we're in PPR right now. So that would be August. See if they go out that date, yes. So August of 24, in order to meet that post by date, the last day you could possibly take that exam and have a score posted by August 1st is the 28th of July. Because the score posting date is going to be 7:30. Now, if for some reason you tested at this time between these dates, your score report is not going to post until the 2nd of August. There is no leeway in this, people. There's no leeway. If you miss these dates, then you would have to delay your teacher residency too, which would also mean then you would be put into a traditional clinical teaching experience in the subsequent semester. So you want to check this for every single exam. Now, as Dr. Miller Levy alluded to earlier, and there's more information on this, if you have to do a retake. The state has a mandatory 30-day wait period between attempts for each individual exam, so it's not like you have to wait 30 days between PPR course or FTR. You can test all of those within days of each other, but if you needed a retest, the system is not gonna allow you a retest date that's sooner than 30 days. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to wait 30 days to give test approval. That's why we want you to get started on this right away. And although these test by and retest by dates are standout greater than 30 days, if you want to give yourself the optimal number of attempts allowed, you're going to want to space yourself so that you can test every 30 days instead of every 45 days. The state only allows Tarleton to approve you to test any one given exam a maximum of 5 attempts. Now, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. We have had some people max out on their 5 attempts. But the purpose of your preparation with your program, with your academic department, is to make sure you're actually ready to take these exams by the time you have approval. And then the stringent remediation is to help ensure that on a retest, you're successful on the first retest and that we don't max out on 5 attempts. If for some reason you needed additional attempts after 5, and once again, Dr. Miller Levy talked about, if this is your desire to be a teacher, we have had some people go through, there is a state waiver process to go through to request additional attempts. Now, it's costly. You have to pay the state like $178 just to have them review your records, and you have to do a remediation plan that they approve before the state actually approves you to retest. But if this is your dream, then we've had people say, yes, it's my dream, and we've had people be successful on state waivers. Yes,
What are the requirements for the test?
that's through your department.
I'm gonna talk about that after Ms. Strong is done.
That's what your individual courses are gonna be laying out for you. Okay, have I just scared everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, don't be scared. Don't be scared. Okay, no. The vast majority of our candidates are successful on the first attempt, if not the first attempt, then the second attempt. But I do have to say, it's all a matter, a lot of times, of what you put into it as well. If you try to shortcut this, and there, you know, especially when we were using 240 tutoring, which was a better program than what we're using before, there were shortcuts to it. And if people's intent was, well, I'm just gonna get the minimum score that I need in order to get testing approval, it may or may not work. So you just wanna make sure that you're giving this your all, just like you're giving your coursework your all. Because if you're not successful with this, then you're not gonna achieve your desire and your dream of becoming a teacher. So this is an important part of the process. Don't be scared. Don't be intimidated by the process. I know it's a lot, but don't be intimidated by it. And then for every single exam, preparation materials. How to prepare for the exam. I would be looking at this for every single exam you need to take, so you know what the expectations are. Learn what the exam covers. Assess how well you know the content. Familiarize yourself with different types of the exam questions. This is a huge one because they're going to give you an example. Types of questions, they give you examples. Okay, here's how a question might be asked. Suggested approach. Lots of times I'll hear, well, I didn't know how to answer the question. You had information available to you that helps to give you direction. So you should be looking at this for every single exam you want to take. If you only do what is required to get test approval and don't do this, you're only 50% prepared to take the exam. So I think you'll find this extremely useful. It's worth your time. Okay, this is telling you that you have 5 hours to take this exam, it's 100 selected response, multiple choice. This walks you through the standards, you can use this as a checklist, domains and competencies. They tell you what percentage of questions fall within the particular domains. It walks you through all of the individual competencies that fall under those domains. You can use this as a checklist. If you can go through this and say, I know this, I know this, I know this, great. If you look at something and say, I'm not so sure about that, well, maybe that's where you need to spend additional time in your preparation. Let's see here. Selected response questions. I believe there are 40 different questions here. You read the question and in your mind, maybe select the correct answer. And then you hit the answer. It's going to tell you which was the correct answer and why it's correct. And why the other ones are incorrect. And once again, you may not see the identical question on the exam that you take, but you might see something that's very similar to this. So this is just giving you a leg up. I'm pretty sure there's close to 40 questions here. So good stuff. You're providing good stuff. And then just added resources. For our pre-K through 3 people, let's just take a close look at this. All right, for science and teaching reading, once again, this is continuously offered, but it has specific score posting dates. Pay close attention to that. You need to be looking at this for every exam you need to take, just so that you're aware. Let me see, early childhood, because we've got 2 people in here, and this one's kind of see, limited administration during 2-week testing periods. I've never seen this before. Okay, I don't know what this is. I've never seen that.
Click on one,
Hmm,
click on one, see what it is.
let's do a. Very strange.
They are not in alphabetical order.
No, they're in numerical order. Okay, that test is 292, I think, 292 or 293. Ah. Okay, this is just if you're gonna find an appointment, I must have clicked the wrong thing. What I needed to look at were score posting dates. Okay, that's check appointment availability. Oh, here's score reports. I am so sorry, I was on the wrong thing. So you can see that in order to meet the in order to meet that January 1st test by date, you're gonna have to test between the 13th or the 26th of November. Okay, if you're pre-K through 3. Otherwise, we may have to visit the people. Okay, our pre-K through 3 people, we may need to visit this. Because this is really, that's really tight. That's really tight. So let's regroup, okay, afterwards. Don't get let's not get.
Forget she ever said
Yeah,
that, just
yeah,
forget she ever
yeah.
said that.
We need to take a closer look at this. I don't think when the process was put, I can tell you this, when the process was all put into place originally, we weren't offering this particular certification, so yes.
Okay, so we have like a required test prep meeting thing on November 18th.
We're gonna talk about.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else.
Before you leave here, would you go back and open up one of the test prep things and go back to the competencies?
Okay, what do you want? All right, so here's the thing, this is what you do not want, people. You do not want the pack. And I've talked with Pearson about this is so confusing that you have these listed first. Because you do not have to have test approval in order to register for these. Anybody can go in and register for these. So this is not, the actual exams that you want are under Texas, so this is confusing. Okay, what do you want me to look at?
PPR, would you open the PPR back?
Let's go look at.
Okay, and go back down to the. Yes,
Selected response samples.
I think that's where it was. Yes, okay. And I don't know how to get to Pearson really quick, so I'm just gonna tell you this while we have, oh wait, no. The one that has the competency and then the beginning teacher needs to know.
Oh, maybe it's the frame, I bet you it's the framework.
Yes, it is the framework. Okay, here. All right, for every test that you take, you need to copy this and print it out. And you could just print just those pages. You don't have to print the whole big thing. You need to know every single thing under your competencies. And you've got competencies for the PPR, for social studies, for math, for science, for fine arts, PE, health. And you guys that are 4 through 8, you've got big competencies. Everybody has about the same amount of competencies. 4 through 8 people, yours is just focused on your area. All right. This is what, when we say we want you to be first day ready, this is what we expect you to know. And this is what your principal that hires you is going to expect you to know. So having the framework that tells you the percentage of questions on the test and having the competencies broken out into beginning teachers know, that will be the most helpful thing that you can have. Guys, we are going to work on that today. And then you will be able to direct your study to the areas that you need. And you won't just be studying things you already know. That's what happens a lot. So if you look at this, when I ask you to do your assignment this afternoon, this is what I'm talking about. Okay? Thank you.
Do these not align with the TEKS?
Yes,
Yeah.
they do. They do. And there's a little bit, sometimes the wording is a little bit different, but the main idea of each competency is also the main idea of the TEKS for you.
This entire website is pretty, I mean, it's very user friendly. And up in the upper right hand corner of every single page is if you need to contact them. I can't see what y'all are seeing, so if you have issues while you're in here, I can't help you, but like if we expand all this, it gives you contact information. They have live chat available sometimes, but here's, telephone number that you can call. They're very helpful. I'm useless when it comes to this. I mean, I can show you how to get around in here, but as far as if you're having issues, I don't know how to help you with the issues, but these people are very good. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back through all this stuff. Okay, I think just for expediency, I didn't think that was gonna take this long today, not that I have a problem with it, I hope.
No, we got it. You've got plenty of time.
Okay. So let's go on to, some of this is gonna be repeat, but some of this is also gonna be new. So you've gotta be willing to use this, people. I have spent a lot of time putting this together, a lot of time. It's always disappointing to me when people just pick up the phone and call instead of searching for the answers. If you search for the answers, then it's more meaningful to you when the light goes on. And instead of I'm just hand feeding you the answers, you're learning that when it comes to dealing with your classroom of kids too. that taking a little bit of initiative helps with the learning process. This is a repeat. Remember the submission date for that request to test form, November 17th. However, I'm strongly encouraging everyone to please take care of this today. Get it off your plate. Get it off your plate. You've got to follow the test by, retest by, and pass by deadlines, so you should have maybe multiple copies of that testing guide table available to you in your materials that you're tracking for the program. Once those approval have been entered, you can begin registering. Don't confuse the PAC exams. You might want to highlight that. Don't confuse those. Make sure you read all registration materials that are provided when you register for the actual Texas exam. You're responsible for knowing all of those materials. They're going to tell you all the do's and don'ts, the days that you go into test, what is allowed, what isn't allowed, what you can wear, what you can't wear. You need to be familiar with that. If you have a documented disability, please get working on this right now so that when it comes time to register, you've got all of your things in place to be able to submit that. If you need help with that, I would say go through the accessibility office. EPS does not get involved with this. A lot of this is FERPA issue. So the testing center does not help with it. EPS does not help with it. If you need help getting those things together or understanding what Pearson is requiring, then go through the accessibility office. I think they're over in the Thompson Student Center. All of those exams must be completed according to the dates outlined. Most of these exams currently are $120. A few of them are $140. That applies to retakes. We talked about the Tarleton testing policy only allowing one exam per calendar day. We're very strict about that. We talked about your score report. We do not need to submit your score reports to me. I get this all the time. People will email and say, here's my score report. Yes, Dr. Miller, Levy wants your score reports. I automatically will get your score report. I will have your score report before you have your score report. So please do not inundate my email with submitting score reports. You talked about that state law requiring that 30-day wait period. That is not a Tarleton thing, that is a state thing. But once again, you need to get started right away, especially on those first retakes, if there's a required remediation session that you need to attend. Yes.
So, with that one test, since we have 13, that window of 13 days, failed the first time, how do we even go about the retest?
Well, you start the retest process. And you'd want to probably time it so that you are approved to be able to meet the next available window for that exam. You're talking the content exam, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You want to complete that, so whenever the next testing window is available, you're set to go to be able to test during that next window.
We are gonna talk about how to do what you need to do to retest.
But do we have to have that test pass by December 1st?
No,
January
attempt it.
1st, attempt it.
By January 1st. These first attempts that you're doing is test by. Okay, let's look at this. Let's look at this table. I want to make sure everybody understands what this table is indicating, okay? Okay. Test by is not the same as passing score posting due dates. We want you to pass by your first attempts. We want everybody to be successful on their first attempts because let's face it, this is $120 a pop. And for our people who have to test 4 exams, that's not just pocket change. So we want you to be successful, but if retakes are necessary, then these are the dates. Now you should all be focusing on this blue column. So you want to mark that somehow, put stars or something up at the top, and this is what you need to follow. We've got test by date, retest by dates, and then passing score posting due dates. And then you can see that the ESL, and we didn't have any sped people in here, but the ESL falls under these other dates. Okay, did that clear up any confusion? Okay, We want you to pass the first attempt, but if for some reason you don't, then there's time built in there. And you can see retest by date, so if you're testing the first time, you have to test by January 1st. The first actual retest by date is April 15th. Well, that's 4.5 months. You should be able to test well before that, get your things done and test well before that. And then that would give you an additional opportunity to make sure that you're meeting the pass by date. If you want to allow yourself the maximum number of attempts in there. We're just saying that this is the very minimum that you have to meet. Okay. That 30-day wait period. We talked about the 5 attempts. We've talked ad nauseum about making sure your TEA account is complete. Once again, if I go in to do a test approval and something's missing, I'm not entering approvals until that's been taken care of. We talked about your legal ID has to be original documents and are not expired. We had somebody this time try to use a photocopy of a social security card, which I think if you read the registration instructions, it's not listed as a form of ID. So they were upset that they got turned away, but they have not read the instructions from registration. Okay, Charlton is a testing facility. However, if you're gonna go home on a weekend, if you're gonna be home over Christmas and you're going to test over Christmas, you can literally test anywhere you want to test, but it's very important that you register early to get your optimal location and time to test. Typically, exams are offered in the morning and the afternoon. A lot of these testing facilities now have evening test dates, not all of them do, I don't think Charlton does. Some of them have Saturday and Sunday testing. There's a lot more Sunday dates available than there ever used to be. Remember that your Charlton email is the official way that we're gonna communicate with you, so you need to be checking that regularly.
Look at number 18, carefully, you guys. Do not take anything in. When they say do not take anything in, they mean literally, do not take anything in. If you take your phone in, they won't hold it for you, they'll just tell you to leave. And you will have forfeited your exam. So pay very close attention to 18, read very carefully what the testing center says is restricted items.
Some jewelry is restricted,
Like smartwatches, anything like that, so.
big pendants, big earrings. Why do you think that this might be the case?
Just get their smartphone.
Yes,
Kids know how to cheat.
yes,
Yeah, there's cameras and things, so they're gonna tell you can't have this. If you wear eyeglasses, they may ask you to remove your eyeglasses and inspect them, because there are eyeglasses that have cameras on them. So be prepared. They may ask for fingerprints. Be prepared. You're not gonna know this if you haven't read the information, so just make sure you read everything. Okay, we talked about if you have to complete, let's see, okay, if for some reason you need to take a gap semester in there, and a gap semester just means a semester in between the sequence of block 1, 2, 3, 4. You need to be making sure that you keep educator preparation services informed of your decisions. And there's a variety of reasons why this might happen. There may be family issues, there may be financial issues, but it has an effect on particularly your field placements, and Ms. Lanier needs to know about these. Because we don't want to damage our school relations. You know, she makes these connections with the school and they graciously allow our candidates to come out to get this experience. And it's very embarrassing for us the day classes are supposed to start, or the day somebody's supposed to be up in the classroom to say, oh, just kidding, you're not gonna be there after all, they gotta change of plan. So as soon as you know that there's gonna be a change of plan, please let us know over there so that we can do what we need to do on our end to make sure that everything flows smoothly. Also, if anybody has a legal name change, changing it with Charlton's registrar does not change it in our office. They do not inform us. So anytime if you have a legal name change, make sure you're letting us know over there so that that reflects in our records as well. And then if you need to do that through TEA, you'll need to submit documentation to them as well to get that made all the way around. All right, we talked about not being certified just by passing your exams. Your teacher certifications are not listed on your Tarleton diploma. The only thing that will be listed on your Tarleton diploma is whatever your bachelor's degree is, which is Bachelor of Science, and whatever your major is. Your certifications will be listed on your teacher certificate, which is issued by TEA. There is no certificate for PPR. That's just the basic exams that every classroom teacher has to have. So if you've got a content area and then the ESL, those would be listed. If you just have a content area, then that's what's gonna be listed, but it's not gonna show up on your diploma. If you want to add additional testing and certification fields, you have to wait until after your standard certificate has been awarded, the program completion. At that time, you're free to go into the Tarleton, into the Pearson system. And you can register and take any of those classroom level certification exams. As you pass them, you have to apply with the state to have them added. They do not automatically add. They want to get $78 every chance they get from you. So you may get job offers that say, well, you know, we like the certification that you're in, but we'd also like you to have this additional certification. So if you have all of your exams passed, which you should by the time you finish the program, then you can tell your potential employer, hey, I've got all my exams passed, I'm just waiting to be recommended for certification. Once that certificate hits your account, then you can go into Pearson and start testing any of those additional classroom level, not the professional level, but the classroom level exams, and then apply to have them added to your certificate. You got information last semester about the Dennis P. McCabe Scholarship. The last page talks about this. I don't know how this is working with the 2-semester year-long residency. I know that when we were doing just a traditional 1-semester clinical teaching, that students were awarded $1,000 for that semester and then $500 for block 2, block 3. The last I talked for scholarships, which has been a while, they told me as long as you met one of the 4 qualifiers for this, there is a 100% award rate with this. You have to specifically apply for it. You have to have a standard scholarship application on file, and then you go in and specifically apply for this, but it's worth it. And I don't know when the deadline is coming up for the spring, but you could potentially be awarded this for block 3 and block 4. So the next 2 semesters. So, I mean, if money's tight, hey, it's worth a shot. Once again, I do not grant test approvals. I only do what I'm directed to do by your academic department. I prefer that you call me, either call me or stop by my office. I have a tendency to be intimidating, and I'm not sure what it is, but Dr. Miller, she can tell you that I don't bite. So, you know, just stop by the office. That way, if you send me an email question, chances are I'm gonna tell you, call me anyway, because the answer is gonna be so involved. I wanna make sure you understand it. So I just prefer to be called or come by the office. And then it's important that even though you're approved to test, you continue to prepare right up until the time that you test. If you complete what you need to complete, let's say, and I'm just throwing this out there because I don't know. Say you meet whatever Dr. Levy's requirements are for the PPR in October, but you don't test until 2 months later, and you don't do anything in between that time. Do you think you're really going to be fully prepared on the day of the exam to go in and take that exam? I mean, when you're taking a midterm or a final in her class, you're going to be preparing right up until the night before you're going to test. So that's what I suggest you continue to do as well for your Texas exams. Like I said, there's no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts. Here are active links. It'll take you to everything: the request to test form, 240 tutoring, your TEA login, the Pearson testing, the disabilities. I mean, everything is here. Everything is here, and then there's the Dennis communicator. So. I don't think I don't know what's going on here with this. Are there any questions at all? Anything at all that we can address? I know it's overwhelming, I know it seems like a lot, I know it can be intimidating. Our people go through this every single semester and we haven't killed anybody yet. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind. Okay, thank you very much, and Dr. Miller, thank you so much for the time.